Hello everyone and welcome to another Travel Weekly and Aspire webcast. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Holly and I am the editor of Aspire magazine, and today I'm joined by two lovely gentlemen. We've got Simon Jeffries, who is Head of Product and Commercial at Carrier, and we've got Ross Pakes, who is Director of Product and Commercial at Abercrombie in Kent. So thank you very much for spending the time with me today and talking to me. I know you're both very busy, so thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
So if you couldn't guess from their job titles, we're obviously talking about product today. So keen to get stuck in. I guess what would be good is to set a bit of a scene of life before lockdown seems like a million years ago, but let's talk about life before lockdown and how things were prior to all this happening, what was selling well, what destinations were doing well, what kind of product your clients were looking for. Let's start with you, Ross, and how 2019 was sort of shaped up towards the end of the year.
We were in a good position, I guess. It was pleasing that we'd finally, and it's a term that we probably haven't heard too much recently, Brexit felt like it was getting somewhere, and there was some direction on there. So the market was starting to become quite buoyant. Our forward bookings were looking very healthy, and across the board, the destinations are up for forward bookings. Inquiry levels were very healthy, and conversion was good. So we were set fair for what looked like a very good 2020, obviously up until the pandemic hit. But destination-wise, we saw a lot of destinations globally, but in particular, it was really positive to see, Egypt, after years of growth, was looking like it was going to have a really good year again in 2020. And there were some green shoots in Sri Lanka following the very challenging year that they had in 2019. So, that was very positive. There's a lot of energy around Japan. It's a good selling destination for us. We opened an office there 2 years ago, and the Olympics was coming. There was just a lot of positivity, and sadly, it all changed very quickly. But we were set fair for a very good year, which, like I say, feels a bit distant now, sadly.
What about you, Simon? How were things last year for you guys and early this year?
It's a similar story in a slightly different market, really, where we were operating. But, Brexit came to the end. We found some side direction, as Ross said. Trump tried to wage World War IV or III or whatever he's doing with Iran, but we sort of glossed over that pretty quickly. So Middle East kind of was already bouncing back once the pandemic hit, despite the problems they had over Christmas time. Forwards were looking good. Our forwards for next year, 2021, even that early, were looking really strong. So people were booking long way out. We were seeing growth in destinations that we've been working quite hard on recently. So we're quite well known as obviously as a luxury operator. And luxury for us is more than just the fly and flop, the beach destinations. And I think that we were starting to see some real traction with some of the work we were making, some of the work we've been doing over the last couple of years in places like India, Sri Lanka, as Ross mentions, and our forwards for those destinations for Southeast Asia, those sort of places looking great. North America fly drives looking wonderful. Europe holding well. Caribbean, Indian Ocean, not bad. And then things changed, didn't they?
They changed well, didn't they? So
there's two terms, isn't there? There's two terms we don't hear about at the moment. One's Brexit, and the other one for sports followers is VAR. Because for a long, long time we were hearing about video assistant referee, and I've not heard about it for months now. So that's a benefit, I suppose, isn't it?
It's quite nice not hearing about those things, as someone who doesn't really like football, especially that one. So let's talk about life when pandemic hit and what you've been dealing with for the last couple of weeks. So as product people, I guess your relationship with suppliers are second to none. You probably have the strongest relationship with suppliers out of people in your business, I would imagine. So what role did you play when borders started to shut and things started to change and it became clear that we were, in a crisis? So what was your role? Simon, do you want to take that one first?
Yeah, of course. It's an interesting one, really, because I think that we were, I don't know whether we were ahead of the game or we understood what was going on more quickly, but we found we were educating some of our partners as to what was coming, and they were kind of thinking in much the same way as we might have thought in December, early January time, this isn't going to be a problem for us. I think that some of our suppliers were feeling that maybe late Feb, early March, mid-March, they were feeling, so, in some parts of the world, no, it's not going to affect us. Don't worry about it. I think you're overreacting. And we were cancelling our own trips, obviously. We were starting to cancel agent trips. We're starting to cancel educationals, that sort of thing. Oh no, you're reacting you're not taking a bit of a negative stance to this. And we were quite confident we were doing the right thing without scaremongering. So then it actually hit, of course, and we got into that sort of firefighting phase. And at that point, I think product became a support for the reservations teams. So our reservations teams are very, they have the capacity, if you like, to handle the bookings and work with suppliers. So where they were struggling to persuade suppliers to assist on bookings or to help repatriate people, that's where the product team really came to their own, really, and liaise with people on the ground and working as one, really, with the sales teams. So that was like the initial crisis reaction phase, if you like, which probably lasted about a month or so while we're repatriating and immediate cancellations, if you like. That was where we saw our role.
Okay, brilliant. And Ross, I know with your DMCs, I'm sure you were in a similar position where you were able to get an early heads up on things. So how was it for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. We were very fortunate that some of our DMCs across the globe were able to get kind of the information from governments and embassies slightly quicker. So we're able to move people probably quicker than some other people, but it didn't make the challenge any more easier. I remember the week when it really started to get a bit more severe, and controversially, there was the Gold Cup in Cheltenham, and it was over that period, coming that week and then into the weekend, that we were able to kind of get a team together, a big team across the UK that, we're dealing with clients. And I think the important thing was that communication with the clients. There's nothing worse than being in a destination, not knowing what's going to happen next. And again, we're fortunate that our MDs of our destination management companies were talking to the clients directly. We managed to repatriate people pretty quickly. There was a case where we chartered a private jet to get some people out. The challenge was around the flights and the availability on the flights, but it was calling on a lot of support with a number of suppliers. And I have to say, it's a great industry to work in, as we all know, but everyone was keen to support as best they could. And it was a real kind of pulling together of people. And we had teams working day and night, looking at flights, talking to clients in different destinations. And it was a real team effort. And kind of, I guess, and Simon might agree with this as well, and I'm sure my product team do, that sometimes product is a little bit unsung heroes in what they do. The product sometimes just is on the website and it's contracted, but it was really, really pulling, and I worked with a great team, and it was pulling on their resource in talking to suppliers and negotiating, and also, to Simon's point, talking internally to the staff. There was the sales guys at the coalface dealing with these issues, and they needed to be kept up to date with what was changing as every border changed and flights changed. Communication both internally and externally was absolutely key.
Yeah, absolutely concur with that, without a shadow of a doubt. And keeping your own team up to date when things are changing so quickly isn't easy. Yeah. And you couldn't take your eye off the ball, could you? Because it's different parts of the world, we're reacting at different times in different ways, of course. So they were the absolute challenge. And you're absolutely right about the product teams. They come into their own. You realize how good your product teams are and how strong the relationships are when they can call up someone in the middle of their night or the night of the supplier and assist in getting a customer home, or later on down the line achieving a cancellation, whatever it might be.
And then the relationships with the suppliers, how has that been? Because they obviously have their own challenges as well, and everyone's kind of needs something to go their way in a way, like you want the best resolution for your client or for your agent or wherever it might be. So how important have those relations been, and has it put some relationships to the test, would you say?
I think, to be honest, as I said before about the industry, I think we're all in this together. I think there's a real understanding and kind of key relationships that we've got to work together. There are some cases where we have to push a little bit harder, but I think it's testament to how much we are all trying to support each other, that we are doing our utmost to support. I mean, I don't think I've been taken off any Christmas card lists yet, but we shall see. But generally, it's been, it's been okay. I'm sure there's more challenges ahead, undeniably. and we just keep talking. Again, it's trying to find an amicable outcome that is keeping everyone happy. But it's certainly possible, and just talking problems through and trying to get the best for everyone involved is important. Obviously, that the client's first, given it's very much their money, so that's important.
Yeah, I think customer first is certainly an attitude we've taken across every decision we've taken as a business. It's customer first, bearing in mind the agents, also the agents' perspective of it as well, because they were very much at the coalface. If we felt our own sales staff at the coalface, the travel agent, in our case, 80% of our business is B2B, they're very much at the coalface. So it's respecting their position, trying to support them, work, and everything we do, even as a product team, is customer and agent focused. When it comes to the suppliers, I would also hope I've not struck myself off any Christmas card lists. It's interesting, every case that hit my desk tends to mean there's a problem because sales couldn't handle it or the product manager couldn't handle it, so it hit my desk. But at the same time, as you say, Ross, we probably in our positions have a bit more latitude. We can think a little bit more broadly about things, and there is usually a way out of it. And I've realized that we don't just have DMCs. It's a bit like your business as well, Ross. They are part of our family. We don't, in your case, they are part of your family. I get that. With us, sometimes they're part of our family. They're part of the bigger organization that we're a part of. But even if they're not part of our company, we do treat them like our company. If there's one thing I've learned from this, we shouldn't just be referring to our ground agents in inverted commas. We should be referring to Nick and Dana and James and Craig, because they in the same way as we would a colleague, and they've been brilliant. On the whole, I'd say 98% of the time, absolutely, we found the solution that's right for them, that's right for us, and right for our customers. So it's quite a nice feeling to get back to the ground as well and doing that stuff, because I don't tend to do it on a daily basis anymore. Yeah, I don't know if you feel the same, Ross. I'm kind of back to the floor a little bit, and getting your hands dirty a little bit, and it's been quite good fun, really.
It's testing yourself again, where you've probably been out of that a little bit for a number of years. But it's it's great to build up those relationships again as well. That I used to do the product for Asia and Australasia, and contacting some of those suppliers again that I haven't spoken to for many years, and it's still the same. It's like meeting a friend that you haven't seen for a number of years, and the conversation still kind of evolves. We're all trying to find the same outcome at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's a relationship business at the end of the day. Rates, yes, they're important. Of course, our pricing's important. But I think at our level, yourselves included, Ross, it's so much more than that. It's about what you can get, and it's about opening those doors, and you only get that through relationships. It's not about price. That's the lowest common denominator. It's something a lot deeper than that.
Okay, great. So in terms of the challenges that you've had internally as a business, I guess a challenge a lot of businesses have at the moment is the fact that a lot of their teams are furloughed. So how has it been from a product point of view, dealing with that? I mean, are your teams still in place? Have you had to furlough people? How have you handled that process?
From our point of view, you could call it a challenge, but you could call it a godsend as well, because as a business, looking at the broader business, without the furlough scheme, and I'm sure there's a lot of business out there, there have been a lot of very tough decisions to make. So I think we're all grateful rather than finding it a challenge. We're grateful. I think that people who are going on furlough, yes, we have furloughed staff. We've furloughed a fair proportion of our staff, actually, but not so much as to overstretch the staff members who remain. And there's kind of two sides of the coin. You've got to support your staff members who remain, and make sure they can do the job they're being asked to do, whilst at the same time not making your furloughed staff feel like second-class citizens or out of the equation. You've got to keep them engaged, and they want to be engaged. It's not like I'm forcing them to be engaged. They want to be engaged, and it's those team meetings and make sure they understand what's happening in the business, because the longer furlough goes on, the harder it'll be for them to reintegrate if you haven't made the effort to look after them. And I think staff engagement for those who are working and those who unfortunately aren't is equally a very, very important aspect of what we're doing.
Okay, great. And Ross?
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think it was it's a fine balance with the furlough scheme to know how much you should furlough your staff and how much you keep on, that you don't end up breaking your business in the long run, and the people that are still working. So I think we found a good balance now. We are starting to bring some people back from furlough. You've got to kind of looking at recovery plans as well. You've got to start thinking positively going forwards as best you possibly can. But to Simon's point, that engagement with the furlough staff is really important. You know, they still want to. We have people that we've put on furlough that were desperate not to go on furlough. You know, they want to keep supporting the business, and you know, they're in contact with me regularly to give me updates. My destination's doing this. I've read this somewhere. So, you know, they love the industry that they work in, and they're all very keen to keep feeding that back. And you know, the people that aren't furloughed doing an absolutely phenomenal job. You know, we're having to learn and to assist where we can. I'm learning more about finance than I think I ever have done, much to the delight of my finance director. But you know, it's all hands on deck, and it's very much supporting the businesses as you best possibly can. So yeah, we're working well as a team. I think I would hope my colleagues say the same, but we're coming through it very well.
I've got a Zoom call with them later, so
yeah, they didn't tell me about that.
What are you working on at the moment, Ross? So now that we've done sort of the reactive phase, as we move forward, I guess, to more of a recovery position and looking forward and looking at what the future might hold with people travelling, what are you working on at the moment at Abercrombie and Kent?
So we've, you know, we're starting to map out a recovery plan, but kind of to the point earlier where we were seeing borders closing, it's kind of flipped around now that we're starting to monitor which borders will open and when, and what the challenges will be with airline schedules, for instance. You know, with some of the ultra high net worth individuals, there's less concern there if they've got their private jets. It's just understanding the borders that are going to open. Now, it's quite clear, I think probably a number of people have said it, that UK and Europe will first and foremost be very popular. Now we at A&K cover a huge amount of product lines, from tailor-made, cruise, escorted tours, beach, private villas. So we have a lot. We're able to be quite nimble and flexible in the product that we push. And what we're doing now is looking at maybe fast forwarding some of the development plans that we had, you know, to come to fruition, but they're going to come forward probably a little bit sooner. And so we're working on some of those areas. But the whole point here that you have to be, just like with our clients, you know, you need to be flexible and you need to be nimble, because things will change. And every day, every hour is different at the moment. You kind of wait for your phone for the BBC News update to come in and see what's changed at that time. And, you know, there's potentially something on the quarantine regulations that may come out later. So you've got to stay very close to everything. Our plan, you know, we are looking at things. There's a lot of talk on multi-generational travel. Being away for the family for so long will be important, and that's where private villas, private homes, that self-isolation option, I guess, in a very nice villa in Tuscany will be popular, just like the UK. So we started actually last year. I was bugged a little bit from one of my product team on, you know, doing more for staycations.
Okay.
Scotland being popular. And so we pulled together a couple of itineraries in Scotland, which again, we think will probably stand us in good stead, as well as the rest of the UK. So it's exciting. You know, you try and look at the positives when there's these challenges, and you try and take your opportunities. And you know, we're looking at different options at the moment, and I'm sure you'll start to see more coming out from us. But it's just getting that timing right. I think that will be kind of where you need to find a balance.
Are you trying to contract more villas? Because I know the villa side of Abercrombie and Kent is pretty huge, isn't it? It's a big business for you guys, and you contract already a lot of private homes and villas. So can we maybe expect some more growth from that, would you say?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, outside of the pandemic, as I'm sure Simon will testify to, you can't stand still long in this industry. And very much at the luxury end of the market, you're always having to push the boundaries and take people beyond the guidebook. So, you know, you've got to stay at the forefront of new opportunities. But absolutely, private villas, you'll start to see a bit more coming on from A&K. You know, we've got an extensive range, as you say already, and also globally, not just our European villas. So in certain destinations, Sri Lanka, Australia, New Zealand, we do have private homes available. But there will be more coming on, possibly in the UK and certainly in Europe. So I think they'll be very popular. And we're already starting to get inquiries for people wanting to travel in July. I think some people are keen to get moving as soon as possible.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, we've had those crazy ones where people want to go away as soon as I can, basically.
Yeah.
We don't have the insights when that is, but we'll do our best for you as soon as we know. But we don't know where it'll be or when it'll be. They just want to go. They just want to go there as soon as that border opens up. Yeah, absolutely. Or charter that plane, as Ross says. So it's.
So what have you been working on? What have you got going on, Simon? At
Carrier, yeah. We've also identified what we think is going to be, what we think is going to be popular when the time comes. And I think we've got a strategy document. The last page of that document is retain the flexibility and be nimble, because at the end of the day, on a day-by-day basis, things are going to change. Places are going to open up. I think some places will open up quickly and then close down again. So it's just about being flexible. And it's the usual things that everyone's identified, I guess, in terms of space and privacy, and traveling with the ones that you've missed most during this crisis. That might be family. In some cases, it might not be family. It might be other people. You know what I'm saying? So we shouldn't exclude them. And yeah, it's just identifying the destinations. Naturally, Europe, I think, will be the first borders to open up, although then you read all the conflicting stories, like Greece is opening up, but the Brits will be welcome, but they won't be welcome, but there'll be an air bridge, but there'll be quarantine. So we just need to react to the news, as Ross says, and be flexible enough. And we are flexible as a business, and working closely with our head of marketing, Nat, who to ensure that the right messaging goes out at the right time to the right people as well. So that's database, it's travel agents, to make sure we stimulate the market in the right way. I'll be honest, we've looked at the UK because staycations is the buzzword, and we don't feel we are an expert in that market. And I'm never going to turn around and say we are now an expert in the UK, because that'd be wrong and that'd be disingenuous to our partners and our customers. That said, we will do our best to manage any inquiries that come through for the stately homes and the hotel buyouts and the castle buyouts. We have enough links and enough contacts in the industry. But we're not going to turn around and jump on it and say, yeah, we're now a UK specialist, just because for the next 12 months we feel the UK will be in vogue. It may be a long-term thing. It'd be the wrong thing to do, would be to say that that's going to be our focus from here on in. Our product strategy as a whole over the last couple of years, interestingly, won't deviate, because I believe, the subjects of, as we all are aware, subjects of sustainability, subjects of mindfulness, the idea about complex itineraries and touring destinations. These are all in the mindset of the luxury traveller these days. We've done a lot of research, and I don't think the pandemic has changed that. I think sustainability has come to the fore in this whole thing, in this whole situation. I think this idea of mindfulness, a lot of us have had time, a lot of people have had time to sit at home and think about what they want from their travel. Well, it kind of plays into our strategy rather than deviating from it. So it gives us opportunity to really reflect on the work we've done and enhance it and bring it to the fore once we're out of the pandemic stage.
Do you think it will make clients more demanding because they've had this time to really think about what they want to do? They're probably really, I'm planning my holidays for the next 20 years at the moment, I feel. So do you think that there'll be more that they just won't settle it for anything that's sort of below the standard that they expect, and that they might have even stronger demands? Or do you think that that mindset doesn't really work in this instance?
Bring it on. Demanding clients, bring it on. That's where we excel. I guess you're the same as well, Ross, in fairness. We're not a point and shoot operator where someone can pick it off the shelf. We will work with their demands. I think it's a bit of a flippant answer, but I think customers might be more demanding or more aware of where their money's going and when their money's exchanging hands. And I think that's something that might well come out of this, is the money chain within travel. That and suppliers at the moment are all coming to us and saying, oh, we want prepayment for everything. And because they're thinking about themselves and the way their fingers have been burnt in the last few weeks, whereas we're turning back and saying, well, I'm turning back and saying, actually, you've got that wrong. You've got to think about customer sentiment here. The customer has become so aware of how their money has been sometimes misappropriated or maybe already spent before they've even traveled, that actually their desire is going to be for more flexibility on payment. So that's something that's definitely going to change, and I think, going forward. And again, we have to act in the best interest of our customers in that respect. I don't know if you feel the same, Ross.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, to your point as well, demanding clients are what we're used to. We thrive in that environment, and when people are spending that kind of money, you would expect it. You know, they want the very best holiday and the best service possible. But I think what will happen, and we're starting to see it already, is their priorities will change slightly. So there'll be a lot more, and to Simon's point as well, focus on flexibility, trust, safety, sanitation. You know, things that they probably took for granted before will be absolutely at the forefront of their mind. They want to travel with a reputable travel company. And whilst, you know, potentially offers could lead them to make bookings, it won't necessarily be as higher on the list compared to the flexibility on their booking conditions. So you've probably seen more people read their terms and conditions with a holiday company over the last 2 months than they ever have. So, you know, you've got to react to that. As an industry, there may be some bigger changes that we need to look at. There are a lot of changes, as Simon says, on suppliers wanting prepayments. And we've got to protect our client and our businesses in this example as well. So you've got to react quickly. You've got to be flexible, because my fear is, you know, things will open and close, and things will continue to change as the pandemic kind of plays out. So, yeah, I think clients' priorities will change, and their demands will just will over time become kind of slightly different, I guess.
Okay. And so talking about future product and pricing and people wanting payment in advance or whatever it might be. So how are you working ahead for future travel, and how are you having those conversations with suppliers and looking ahead? And because I guess there's a big expectation that prices are likely to go up next year as a result of hotels either having to operate less hotel rooms or various different factors. There's some concern that on availability as well. So how are you managing that in your respective businesses? What about you, Ross?
I mean, to my point earlier, I guess we've been very fortunate that we have our global offices, so they've tried and tested a lot of this product. So we have that product there available to us if we just want to bring it online. We're in kind of an enviable position in that regard, that suddenly we change our focus in Italy a little bit from some of those key selling destinations to maybe some new up and coming ones. So we're able to react quite quickly to that. And you know, it's just giving that reassurance to clients that you know the product that you're selling. And I guess there's going to be many conversations on you know, new product. It's really getting that personalised experience to clients. That's one thing that's key. Every inquiry that you get is going to be slightly different. Everything that they're asking for is going to be slightly different. So we're reacting to that as flexibly as we possibly can. And as I say, there'll be some developments coming up in certain destinations, but it doesn't need to be a wholesale change. You know, to Simon's point as well, you need to stay true to your brand values and your knowledge. You don't want to be selling something that you're not comfortable selling, because clients want confidence in what they're booking and assurances of what they're booking.
I think to your point on price about Holly, I think there might be some suppliers who do see an opportunity, if you like, to hike prices, but I think it'll be short term. I'll be honest, because market forces will come into play. And ultimately, the customer will drive the price. You know, there's a limit even in the luxury market. Some people, there's a value to a holiday. Obviously, we operate in the higher value echelons. The customer still wants value in their holiday, be it in the service they offer or the physical product they're receiving. So if a lodge in Africa decides to go maverick and double their prices, they'll quickly get frozen out of the market. Okay. Because there'll be too much in there that actually brings it back down to normality. So I don't really see that. I don't see a massive hike in prices, I'll be honest, even though I think the supply chain will shrink, because I think unfortunately some hotels will go out of business. Some hotel owners will choose not to reopen because it's not in their business interest. We know there'll be airline consolidation. So there will be some shrinkage, but I don't think ultimately, I certainly hope. And the early indications are that suppliers aren't hiking up their prices for next year. They're keeping prices reasonable, should we say, for in terms of contract renewals that we're seeing.
Okay, that's
and I think to your point, Holly, on availability, it's a really key topic, I guess, because there is so much pent-up demand that, you know, we're already seeing some properties, some of our key properties in Africa getting booked up already for the peak season. So what will happen potentially is the shoulder season will be expanded, and there's different reasons for that, I guess. One, that people want to travel when there's less tourists potentially. Also that there's potentially more value to be had. But also, it's not often a bad time to travel. We've probably spent a lot of time, Simon and I, trying to push the shoulder season because it's that lower kind of demand that you get. But in most destinations, it's not actually a bad time to be traveling, and that's where you've got to look up for your availability as well, is finding those pockets of availability with different suppliers.
Okay, you mentioned about the price situation potentially being short term there, Simon. Do you think with some of the mindset of the stuff that we talked about with the clients and the things that have risen to the top to be popular with them, as you said, Ross, with them wanting flexibility, them looking at the T's and C's closer than ever, is that a short term thing? And do you think old habits soon will fall back into place, or do you think that is now how the industry is, and clients will be very aware of those things furthermore?
Yeah, and from my perspective, I think it could be a fundamental change in the way in business generally. I'm not saying the existing model won't exist. It could be that the two sit side by side. And if we look in other areas of the industry, which away from our own businesses, the bed banks, Booking.com, people are. If you want to book a hotel on Booking.com, you already have that flexibility. You can book at today's rate. It's 100% payable today. It is what it is. You don't get any money back, or you can pay a higher rate and pay on check-in. So I'm not saying that's what our model will go to, but the fact is this idea of flexibility when you're buying travel already exists. The airlines do it, the low-cost airlines do it, don't they, with their Flexi Plus packages or their rate of the day. So I think there may be something in that. What tends to happen in these situations when you get these seismic changes in industries is that you move from A to Z and settle somewhere around L and M. It'll come back again, in somewhere. But there will be some fundamental changes that happen, I think, as a result of COVID-19. We'll all remember these days as being the catalyst for some change in the industry. And I think payment procedures might be one of them. I'd be lying though if I said we had a strategy for that yet. We've captured it, we've documented it. When the time's right, we'll look at the way we approach it and how we can do it in the best interest of our customers and the agents we're booking on behalf of.
What about you, Ross?
Yeah, no, I completely agree with those points. I think there's definitely some short-term changes that will happen. Whether that's then something that will stay long-term is remains to be seen. But I do think people's concerns on flexibility in terms and conditions will stay. It's highlighted it as being a problem, and I do think that's an area that potentially will have to change long term, alongside kind of the payment terms as well. Their OTAs obviously are very loud in the market, and they challenge us as luxury tour operators. But at the same time, we have certain flexibilities within the product that we sell and the way that we sell things, and giving clients that assurance that I think has enabled us to step up a little bit, as well as businesses, to say this is the reason why you book with us, and this is why you trust the people that you book with. So I think there will be some, as I say, there will be some short-term changes, but I think they'll become kind of a new norm, as we keep talking about. But it remains to be seen exactly what that looks like yet.
Okay, great. So looking ahead to 2021, Simon, you mentioned that you already had quite a lot of bookings ahead for 2021. I'm sure it's a similar case for you at Abercrombie and Kent, Ross. So what are clients looking for next year? What destinations are selling particularly well, and what destinations do you think will end up in a good position off the back of this, whether it be through what they've done during this scenario and how they dealt with it, or just where people want to go? Where's hot for you guys for 2021?
I mean, we're finding people are largely rebooking the destinations that they're booked in the first place. So they're not necessarily saying, I was going to Africa and now I'm going to go to Indian subcontinent or the Indian Ocean. What they might be doing is saying, I might take an extra holiday and keep my Africa one, and then maybe also do a beach destination. So it may be that, and people will have more holiday to use next year if they're able to carry it across. So there could be opportunity there that people will take more trips. At the same time, they could take longer trips. So you look at the destinations that have done well with the situation, and I think that will remain with people for a long time. Australia, New Zealand, again, that plays into that kind of that great outdoors, being in the wilderness, being away from the tourist hordes. But at the same time, what we're finding is, and from our survey, we found that a lot of our clients still want to travel to the iconic destination. So it's not that Machu Picchu or Taj Mahal are going to be off people's lists. It's just trying to understand how can they visit those sites without the tourist hordes being there. So, it challenges us to be creative. We were very fortunate that in some destinations we can open doors that others can't, and that will stand us in good stead. But you will have to make sure that you're finding the right experience for the client at the time. So I don't think the destinations will change too much. There's certainly some that have been booked up earlier than others. Europe, I think the whole season in Europe will be longer, which will flow into 2021. And certainly we're getting a number of beach bookings as well, that the private island experience. They might bounce back slightly quicker, but generally, people are still booking a lot of destinations. Japan, people that book with us for the Olympics still want to go. So I don't see a huge change. I think there certainly is in 2020, and maybe the first quarter in 2021. But long term, I can't see people changing too much. Just perhaps their bucket list priority has changed slightly based on where they wanted to go.
Okay, great. And what about you, Simon?
I say similar, obviously slightly different destinations, but a similar story. I don't think new destinations are going to come out, although we've identified maybe a requirement for, you mentioned it earlier yourself, Ross, more off the beaten track rather than the regular places in a country. They may go to a quieter place. So in the ski season, for example, they might be looking for the quieter resorts and we've done some research to try and give them options on for that. So they're not on top of other people, not with the hordes, and not they have more space and privacy to themselves. The private island buyouts, the hotel buyouts, we've been looking at that. Obviously private jet experiences, we're not expecting that to take over our market, but at the same time it'll be increased. We do a number already, obviously, and I think that option will be looked at more. Customers looking for assurance, and that's the key to it, really. So wherever they choose to go, and I take your point, they're very often going to where they would have gone this year because maybe we've encouraged them to do that through a deferral of payment, that sort of thing. Or it could be they really wanted to do it, so they still really want to do it. But what assurances can you give me, carrier, that where I'm going is actually right and it's safe? And who'd have thought that health and safety, Ross, would be the new sexy in travel, huh? It's been the bane of our lives for the last 25 years, and now we've got hotel groups falling over themselves to tell us about how wonderful they are in this particular aspect of the market. And I think some of the bigger chain hotels have probably jumped on it a lot quicker.
Yeah.
But I think on the flip side, customers we know are moving towards the more independent, authentic. So it's encouraging those products as well to ensure that they've got their systems in place, and they can give the rhetoric that gives the customer reassurance as well. So wherever people are choosing to go, it's giving them that reassurance that it's safe for them. It's almost like doing a personal validation for them. What are your needs? What do you want from your holiday? And we do this already. I guess you guys do it as well. What do you want from your holiday, and how do we match that for you? So it's not holiday 1, 2, 3 off the peg. It's holiday for you, Mr. Smith, for you, Holly. That's what we're good at, and that's what we'll continue to do. It's just about identifying what those needs are at the time of the booking. That's the key part of the process for us.
Okay, great. And you've both spoken about the desire for maybe a slightly more wilderness, off the beaten track type holiday. How do you think the city break will perform sort of in this year, next year? I mean, people aren't going to necessarily want to be around crowds. What is it, the death of the city break for the short term, do you think, or what's your views on that?
I don't think it is. I think it might just be, as I say, further down the list for people when it comes to choosing their destinations. But as I said earlier, I think people still want to see tourist sites. They're just trying to work out creative ways that they can go and not be around quite so many people. So, to the point we say about assurances, they kind of want to get a feel from the operator on what that might look like. And that's why I said shoulder season departures might be more popular. Albeit if everyone starts doing that, then go back to the high season. But it may just be that people try and think slightly outside the box, and that's absolutely why they come to operators like us. That they expect to have that knowledge and that insight to be telling them when they should and shouldn't do that. So I don't think it's an absolute no-no. I think it will still be popular. It might take a little bit longer than some of the kind of the private villas and the more remote locations to come back, though.
I was unfortunate enough to be working for a city break specialist back in the day at Twin Towers. And if you remember how quickly New York came back, well, you might not remember, Holly, I'm doing you a disservice. I remember very clearly how quickly New York came back after Twin Towers. And that was such a catastrophic event. I think city breakers tend to be quite resilient. They do want their dose of culture that weekend away. So I do think it will come back. It might just be a bit slower, that's all. But I think it isn't the death of a city break by any means. It's not really a major market for us. We do a little bit, but I know there are some operators out there who do specialise and still do it really, really well. And I don't think it's the end for them by any means.
Okay, great. Well, I think I've taken up enough of your time for today, but one final question. When all this is over, when borders reopen and you can get on a plane, where do you plan on going, Ross?
I guess I'd be in trouble with my mum if I didn't have Dorset high on my list for places to visit first. So I'd probably have to put a visit down to her first. But at the same time, I'd be in trouble with my wife if we didn't get on a plane relatively quickly. So taking the girls to somewhere, escaping from it all and doing stuff that we aren't able to do at the moment, like jumping in the ocean, lying on the white sand beaches. So Maldives and Seychelles appeals to me. Been over there a couple of times and it's absolutely stunning. So to go back somewhere like that would be popular. But at the same time, I'm a bit of a culture vulture. So looking at areas like Sri Lanka, I think that gives you a bit of everything. Great for families, great year-round destination, and it's got the beach and the culture. So there's a few, but I've got a very long list. But I won't keep you too long on that front.
Well, thank you, Simon.
Yeah, I think you mentioned before about bucket list experiences. I think people will have had time to reflect on, right, I'm definitely going to do that. And we've definitely got one. I'm keen to get to New Zealand, that's for sure. But the real bucket list for me, and everyone thinks I'm crazy, luxury comes in all shapes and sizes. And for me, I've got this image of me piloting this RV through the Canadian Rockies, a bit like Old Man Fokker. You see Meet the Fockers. And this image of the lakes and mountains and the shimmering shadows and all that sort of, I've got that, and this idea of wilderness as well, and space and the great outdoors, and that's what I've got. Whether I get to do it this year, I don't know, but it's definitely higher. It's got even higher on my list, and I will be getting around to doing it and making a booking. That's for sure.
Thank you both so much for your time. I really appreciate it, and we'll leave it there. So thank you both. Have a lovely day.